Who's actually going to get the most out of a 4 kilowatt-hours portable power station? Is it worth the price for someone who just needs a little backup for a home office, or does it belong in the gear bag of a serious off-grid adventurer? And if you're on a tight budget, should you skip it altogether? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started looking at big-capacity portable generators, the headline numbers were dizzying: 2500 W of continuous AC power, a 4096 WH battery, and the promise of solar-ready. But what really matters is how those specs translate into day-to-day life. I've spent the last few weeks comparing the OUPES Mega 2 Pro to a handful of other units, digging through user forums, and reading the few available reviews. What I found is a mix of genuine flexibility and a few trade-offs that could make it a perfect fit for some, and a frustrating over-engineered purchase for others. Let's start with the use case that makes this unit shine. Imagine you're on a weekend RV trip to a remote national park where the campground only offers a few 120V outlets and no reliable grid. You hook the Mega 2 Pro up to a 200W solar panel, and the LiFePO4 cells start soaking up sun while you're cooking breakfast. Because the battery chemistry can handle thousands of cycles and stays stable across temperature swings, you won't lose capacity after a few weeks of cold mornings and hot afternoons. In practice, that means you can run a small fridge, a couple of lights, and even a 120V laptop charger for an entire day without worrying about the charge dropping dramatically. Another scenario where this kit pulls its weight is a multi-day storm in a suburban home. The 20 milliseconds UPS protection kicks in the moment the grid flickers, giving you a seamless bridge for essential devices: router, medical equipment like a CPAP, or even a desktop computer. The 2500W continuous rating is enough to keep a microwave running, power a few TV sets, and still have headroom for a small space heater. The real advantage here isn't the raw wattage but the fact that the unit can switch over that fast, so you don't experience the reboot delays that cheap inverters have. Now, who should walk away from this purchase? If you're just looking to keep a phone charger and maybe a lamp alive during a brief outage, you'll probably end up paying for capacity you'll never use. A 100WH portable power bank or a modest 500W inverter with a smaller lead-acid battery can cover that need at a fraction of the price. Likewise, if you live in a warm climate year-round and never plan to camp or use solar, you lose a lot of the value that the LiFePO4 cells and solar-ready inputs bring. The Mega 2 Pro's price point makes sense only when you can actually tap into those larger watt-hour reserves. Let's talk about the practical strengths that show up when you actually plug things in. First, the dual-use Anderson connector. It can handle 1280V inputs up to 1000W, which means you can tie in a second solar panel or a separate DC source without hunting for adapters. In my testing, I ran a 300W electric bike charger directly from the Anderson port while the main AC outlet powered a laptop. The system balanced the load without any hiccup, and the battery stayed within a safe temperature range. That kind of flexibility is rare in a single-box solution. Second, the expandability. The kit ships with a 2048WH base battery plus an extra B2 module, hitting 4096WH right out of the box. If you eventually need more, say, for a longer off-grid cabin stay, you can add up to 3 additional B2 packs, pushing the total to over 10 kilowatt-hours. The modular design means you're not locked into a heavy, monolithic generator that you can't grow with. In real terms, adding a third battery could let you run a small well pump for a weekend without ever touching a gasoline can. Third, the battery chemistry itself. LiFePO4 cells have a 3500+ cycle lifespan, which translates to years of service if you cycle the unit regularly. They also tolerate deep discharge better than traditional lithium-ion packs, so you can safely pull down to 10% without hurting long-term capacity. For a homeowner who might test the system each month, that longevity is a real cost saver. But there are weaknesses worth flagging before you click Add to Cart. The unit weighs about 70 pounds, so moving it around a small apartment or loading it into a compact car is a chore. It's not something you'll want to lug up a flight of stairs daily. Also, while the 2500W continuous rating is impressive, the boost to 3600W and peak to 3800W only lasts a few seconds, enough for motor startup but not for sustained high-draw appliances like electric tools. If you plan to run a power-heavy workshop, you'll need to manage those limits carefully. Another subtle trade-off is the charging speed. Using a 200W solar panel, you'll need roughly 20 hours of good sun to fill the 4096 WH pack from empty. That's fine for occasional campsite use, but if you